This is Phantology.
You may have heard of us.
All right, what's up, Mega Sander fans that are reading the pre-release chapters? This is Steven, your host with Phantology Podcast. I have my lifelong friends Jake and Ben here, and we're talking about the pre-release chapters for Wind and Truth that have come out so far. It's the prologue and chapters 1 through 6, and he's done this for at least since Oathbringer. I don't remember if he did it for Words of Radiance. But once again, we're going to get all of the first part before the book actually launches, which is fun because it gives us plenty of time to like slowly get back into the series and the book and everything. And so how are you guys liking what we've seen so far?
I've loved it. I think we will probably talk about some of our gripes and stuff, but I think the aspect of it that I've really loved is the fact that it's kind of given my week like an anchor point to start out with. I was listening to, I forget what YouTuber it was, but he was talking about how now with like the advent of streaming and like the Netflix model of like dropping it all at once, there's not like we've kind of lost the anchoring part where everybody's talking about the same thing the day after it airs. I feel like House of the Dragons kind of gave us that a little bit. And I feel like other things have kind of too. But it's been a while since like a book or a reading thing has given us like an anchor point that we could like go back to for like weeks on end. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
maybe you get the release of the book and then everybody's like spending the next few days like reading it or a few weeks reading it and talking about it, but it hasn't been able to like, we haven't had a book event that like anchors a week like that. That's kind of my mini like original thoughts of why I've enjoyed it so much.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I love this new to like the industry idea of releasing a book like this. And I totally get why not a lot of people do it. And I'd love to see it adopted more widely, but it's
Why do you think
fun.
more people don't do it? I mean, you acted like there's an obvious reason there. I mean, for me, the obvious reason is that they're just not like ready with it. I don't know, but it seems like why wouldn't
Um
they?
I think I think monetizing it would be complicated at first.
Well, they're
Because
not.
this
He's not
is
trying to monetize it though.
Well,
Like,
I know. I'm saying for it to be widespread, you'd need to monetize it, and monetizing it the right way would take some time to figure out. Because
well,
he's
I think
essentially
uh,
like
it,
Sanderson can do this because he has so much like influence and sway, and he wants to release his book this way. It hypes it up, but like I feel like it would be hard for other authors to get their publishers on board with this free preview, this much of a free preview of a book. But
maybe not this much, but I don't know if I agree. I feel like the monetization aspect is just that it's free publicizing, right? It's free like press. You're I mean, it's not costing you anything to release it, and the people that like think about this, the only way it would harm you is if there's like depending on how big the subset of people that read the preview chapters and then decide they don't want to buy the book. So maybe I could see like not doing it for the first book of a series, right? Because then I don't know, like you're hoping to get a few people that
it's
buy the
like if you
book.
have no faith in your book, you're like,
Right.
no. That's
Exactly.
kind of like in the video game world, they'll like not let consoles have previews of games because they haven't
Yeah,
optimized to it. So they're like, no, you can't see this game yet. You can only
exactly.
see it if you buy it.
Yeah. But like if you're like the second or third book deep into a series, like people have already read, 1,000 pages to get to this point, and then it's just, what's the harm? Like there's
Yeah, I
probably going to
think
be like
it
1% of the population that reads the pre-release and they're like, might as well not buy the book now, versus like the percentage of people that
get hooked
become
and want to buy
aware.
it.
Yeah, like we're not even get hooked, but like they become aware of the book, like the book comes up on their radar when it might not have otherwise. Because I bet it's my experience that people that aren't in the bookish community might lose track of series. Like my father-in-law kind of started reading Stormlight when the first couple books were out, but then he kind of like got caught up, and now I keep on like reminding him. You know what I mean? So like there's for sure a lot of people that lose track of things. Whereas like I feel like if more series did stuff like this, then
Mm.
it would help remind it would
Yeah,
get in front of their faces a little bit more.
So
I
we're
totally
saying it works
agree.
really well when it's a book with some clout, with some hype behind it. Like I'm thinking if we ever got Winds of Winter or
Ooh,
Doors of
Oh yeah.
Stone, Like
People
those
go
could be,
nuts.
I mean, but
Yeah.
that would be, there'd be a lot of hype around that, and it might even be a way of kind of trying to get some forgiveness from the fans,
Yeah.
saying, let's release these chapters for 2 or 3 months, get some good energy
Man,
towards the
he
book.
basically tried to do that with that charity stream, didn't he? I feel like that was the thing. If he
Well, he
met
had
a
nothing to
certain,
deliver. He had nothing to deliver. That was the issue
Yeah.
there.
yeah, but
George R.
he
R. Martin
the
has
the
dropped
promise was so small though.
chapters
It
of
wasn't
his
like
books.
some Herculean effort that he promised to
Oh,
deliver.
I know, but the difference between the two things we're talking about is one has content to release and one doesn't.
That's
Yeah.
true.
But Ben, I agree. I don't disagree that I don't think it would be a bad idea if more did it. I think it'd be a great idea, and I agree with all your points that it would be way good advertising. I just think publishers, I think any sort of like bigger company is more adverse to new things, and they're always thinking about like, well, how can I make sure I maximize the profits on this and new things scare them. So
Yeah,
that's just my take on why it hasn't happened. But
yeah,
I totally agree with everything you're saying that I think it would only be for the benefit. But yeah, I've really
Hmm.
enjoyed. I remember when Oathbringer started doing this, and that was my first awareness of it. I was in my intro to C++ class, and it would drop during that class. I remember that specifically because um, I feel like the lectures in those classes were so hard to follow for me. Like I had to like just start doing stuff, and so the lecture part of it was just like, man, I'm having such a hard time to follow along. And 30 minutes in, it drops. Okay, I'm reading this now.
Nice.
man, that class was tough, man.
It's
Did you do
tough.
the
Yeah.
Plinko board assignment with it or no?
Yeah, I think that was one of the first like projects we had to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
C++,
Yeah.
no longer
Yeah.
useful.
I never have put C++ on my resume because of my experience with that class, but
Sure,
Oh,
but it is good for teaching your foundational skills. Anyway, that's
yeah. I mean, Python kind of killed most things for the common man coder, but yeah, let's talk about the actual content. So the prologue released like years ago, 1 year ago, 2 years ago, quite a while ago. And when it first dropped, there were a lot of theories around it, and I did like a whole video and stuff. And so we've talked about this quite a bit. If you want like more visceral thoughts on the prologue, maybe go back and check those out. But we can kind of talk through because there were a couple small changes. And I mean, the big things coming out of it for me are we still have the theory around Shallan's mom being a herald dying. We still have the thing around is the Stormfather that's talking to Gavlar really the Stormfather, or is there something else going on? And then the new thing in this prologue is that Vasher is actually connected to the Void Light, which I think is interesting. And I don't think that was in the original prologue drop.
yeah, and that I feel like that makes a lot of sense knowing his character from Warbreaker, just being this ancient scholar. What was he one of what they called the five scholars or
Something like
what
that,
were
yeah.
what were they called then? So that makes sense. It does kind of make me it shocks me a bit. I can't think of the idiom for that. Um,
Mm,
just because it seems, I mean, from our perspective, creating Void Light seemed like such a bad idea. Like I feel like as a reader, the first time you learn about it, it's like that's not a good idea, and then you learn more about Gavilar's intentions behind it. And you're like, that's not a good idea. So it like almost made me like disappointed in Vasher, but I wonder what his viewpoint on that was.
yeah, Vasher is for sure like one of those characters that you have it, you feel like you know him, but you don't. I don't know how else
Yeah.
to say it. Like he just hasn't had that much screen time, but the screen time that he has had has been like very impactful, almost like Wit. You
hmm
know what I mean? Where you feel like you kind of have
A
have a
cooler
grasp on this
wit.
character's motivations,
Yeah.
but really don't. And yeah, so I think that's right. It's like why is he even associating with such a man as
Es-
Gavilar, you know?
Especially in Warbreaker, he came across more like a man who was like, I regret so much of what like I regret so much of the advances I made for society,
Yeah.
because they were all used for war, and like how is this different? But
But didn't we only
Saw
meet
a
him at the
theory
very
saying
end?
that he might be using the void light to destroy Nightblood.
Mm.
Like
oh,
that's the motivation for his exploration, his meddling into these powers.
I could kind of see that, but it's like it feels like let's create a fusion bomb so we don't have fission bombs anymore.
Mm.
Like is that really? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not really
Mhm.
Plus,
thought through.
with um with Nightblood, it's kind of awkward because sometimes I fail to see why Nightblood is such like of important consequence. Because although it does seem like a powerful object, it is like still like just stick it back in its sheath. You know what I mean? Now, I guess maybe like you could see it like having the power to end worlds if it's just left unchecked and it just gobbles up all the investiture of the world. And so maybe, but we just haven't seen it. You know what I mean? So it's hard for us to really, it's hard for me at least to consider it a world-ending threat or world-threatening threat. Whereas like it's easy for me to picture Void Light as that. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I feel like I get what you're saying to an extent, but I do think Rhythm of War kind of woke me up to the dire consequences of Nightblood. And I'm imagining in this darkest timeline, I'm envisioning for the future, Dalinar loses the contest, is chosen as Odium's champion, and is given a weapon like Nightblood to go
Mm.
destroy anything with. Like, I think it's just the untapped potential it has that is scary enough to want to destroy it. But
Yeah, that's fair. But it's also existed for like like millennia now. I'm not
that's
sure
true.
how
That's
how
true.
long it has, and maybe there has been consequences of it that we haven't seen, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Mhm. What are we thinking about the whole Chana?
I,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's got to be Shallan's mom. The more I've learned, unless because there's the whole for full context, the beta preview chapter mentioned she had red hair, correct? But then the one that's rolled out
Hmm.
now has removed that line, unless the removal is because they are changing that and that she isn't Shallan's mom and they didn't want people thinking that, or that it never was and they didn't want people hypothesizing that.
I don't
Um,
think they're changing her hair color though. Like if you look up the Herald on
Yeah, like I think they're
no,
still
no,
artwork
no.
and
whatever,
stuff.
like yeah.
I'm saying if the reason they're removing that reference in this new version is to not make people think that because it's not true that she's
Well, I
Mm.
Shallan's
mean,
mom.
I think everybody would be impressed with a good like head fake, but I
Well, I know, but I'm saying that's the only in my mind, it's like 99% sure Shallan's
yeah.
mom, unless the reason they got rid of that is because some beta readers were like, hey, this feels misleading for whatever reason. But
I mean, that's true. I feel like
Mm.
Sanderson kind of has succeeded in getting all of us to be those beta readers and just like reads on like the Reddit comments and be like, oh, too many people have gotten this right after listening to the prologue, like after listening to my reading of
yeah,
the prologue. Like, let me, before it gets to like the wider audience, like let me take this out so it's not quite as obvious. To me,
that's what it feels
yeah,
like to me is happening.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I wonder if any differences will happen between these reactor released chapters and the printed copies. I
I
doubt that.
almost,
It's probably
I
yeah.
don't think so because they're also releasing the audio versions of the preview chapters, and there's no way
I
they're
didn't
gonna
know
re.
that.
Yeah, they just announced that, so I think
Oh,
that'll
cool.
start happening next Monday. So the Monday following when we release this recording, but they're not gonna have them re-record the audio.
Yeah. He did have them re-record when he like edited the whole ending of Words of Radiance, but
Oh, yeah.
I
So I
don't
guess
know
that
if
means we're stuck with the "I'm game" quote.
yeah.
I don't know why everybody's talking about the I'm game without talking about the mileage quote. I went on such a rant, like such a rant about them, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I no, I agree with the mileage thing as well. And I wouldn't those things wouldn't bother me so much if we didn't also have phrases like what on Roshar?
Yeah.
Like you have to
I
like
see. You pick a lane.
pick a lane, and I think the what on Roshar is a little they both just are anachronistic in my mind, where it's like, what on earth is like too much of a modern phrase that just replacing Earth with Roshar doesn't
Hmm.
fix it for me. And then
Hmm.
yeah, the I'm game and mileage, but I don't read Sanderson for his prose, and I feel like the bigger he gets, the less I read for his prose for the most part. But
That's fair. I think the concern that I've heard echoed online is that it's not necessarily that you're expecting great prose, but in the past, I feel at least Sanderson hasn't pulled you out of his writing because of his prose. You know what I mean? Like you might not think
his
that, yeah,
his
you might,
jokes always did, but I'm just kidding.
yeah, but jokes are more of like a
I
choice,
know
you know?
that was just a
Uh-huh.
joke as
It's
well.
just pulled me out of the episode, Jake. But
Sorry.
but yeah, I don't know. That's what's kind of disheartening to me. So
Yeah.
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 I don't want to like harp on this too much, but I felt that not so much the pulling out, but I felt like with Rhythm of War specifically, again, I think he has so much popularity and like earned deserved popularity that I think the again publishing companies are like it's not worth spending so much time combing through this guy's stuff because it's gonna sell. And I think some of the editing has been like things have been missed in editing that would have been caught if he were a smaller author trying to break through. But
Mhm.
it's my
I
hot take.
I think he also said that didn't his long-term publisher or editor just retire? It wasn't like Moshe or
Maybe
somebody. I feel like one of his
Moshe
long,
was a agent or editor, one of those. Yeah,
I think that
yeah,
was his first editor, like the one that kind of got him started with the Elantris. I don't know
yeah,
if he edits all the books or what, but yeah.
yeah. I don't know, but I
Hmm.
mean, okay. I feel like we've gotten all
yeah,
the pettiness aside. There's a lot in these chapters
yeah,
I really liked. So let's
yeah.
Yeah.
Like I
I
said,
mean,
that
we haven't
doesn't.
even talked about Dungspren yet.
Oh, Dungspren. Yeah.
All right, yeah, we can focus on the impactful stuff before people turn us off.
the
So,
fantotic stuff.
Fantotic. Yeah,
oh right, because that's
that was
not
in the
really a
latest
word.
chapters.
Yeah, that didn't
It
bother
wasn't a
me.
word. It wasn't a word I knew.
No, I
But
looked it up. It's not a real word.
I generally will look those up, but I didn't. I was like reading pretty fast that I didn't even bother to look it up. I was like, I have to go back and look for this later. So not real.
No, it's not
Good to
real.
know.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
yeah.
Maybe Sanderson, maybe a little copyright infringement on Fantology though. Just
Mm,
throwing it out
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
No, no, no.
I think we were
Fantonic
owed like some royalties. We would take those royalties in the
of
form of like a
seeming
media
to
pass.
be of Fantology, popular fantasy podcast.
Yeah,
Something that's the definition. Yeah.
yeah. We'll have our people talk to his people. We'll sort it out.
Yep. We'll just take
Um,
the full arc and drop the suit. So
okay.
chapter one, yeah. So there's a lot of Kaladin character stuff. He's like feeling good, which is nice.
Maybe even
The
great.
Yeah, yeah, possibly even great, which he comments is weird considering everything that happened and Teth just dying and all that. I think the most interesting stuff here is the wind starts talking to him and says that the
Mhm.
worst storm is coming, which we'll have to. I think this question of like what is the wind now, capital W, and what is the worst storm? Like, does this represent an actual storm that's coming, or does it just represent like the wave of stuff that's going to happen over the next 10 days?
Yeah, so we learned that the wind later on, and not just jumping ahead to give context to this, right? We learn in chapter 6, I think, that the wind is essentially part of the old magic or like magic of Edelnauseum before the shattering or anything. Like it's
And like deeply connected to Roshar
Roshar.
itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like older than the Night's Radiance, older than I don't know if older than the
Hmm.
Spren. I don't really know that kind of timeline, but if not older than definitely like deeply connected to. Um, which is interesting. It's like and I think Wit even says that the Night Watcher was Cultivation's attempt to like kind of control one of those older magic aspects. I think that's what he was trying to get across. So it's basically like more like the storm version of the Night Watcher is the vibe I'm getting. Is that kind of what you guys understood from that?
Hmm. So Honor's
Yes.
version of the Night Watcher,
Well, not
almost.
Honor. I don't know if because it existed prior, like the Night Watcher and the Wind, or what was the Night Watcher before, both existed prior to cultivation and honor on Roshar. And what I understood from Wit's explanation is that the Night Watcher existed prior to cultivation, then cultivation has like kind of taken over
Hmm.
guiding it or influencing it. Whereas I don't know if the Wind ever had that happen with honor, but currently it seems like it isn't. Whereas like the Stormfather seems more like the honor influenced equivalent of it,
Okay.
maybe.
Okay.
But
I mean, I thought of from what we've seen so far, I was thinking of the Wind more as this like primordial,
yeah,
uh, you know, essence of Roshar and tied to the rhythms of Roshar that are mentioned, and not really something that can be like even interacted with by people, right? This is just like a force of nature that has some level of sentience, apparently.
yeah, yeah. I think that's right. Not physically interacted with, maybe, but at least
Yeah,
communicate. You
yeah.
can communicate with. Um, yeah,
Maybe
interesting to.
maybe like a very heavy spiritual realm type of thing, like spiritual realm.
Yeah,
I'm a little fuzzy on the whole, especially as you get into spiritual realm, which seems like we're going to do more in this book. Like, how exactly
yeah,
does that work?
yeah. I got again, not trying to hop around, but I got major like Stranger Things type vibes when they were talking about needing to go to the spiritual realm to get Mishram's gemstone or whatever out.
Uh-huh.
Um, anyways, just like preparing to go to the outs or what is it?
Yeah, upside
The
down.
outside? The upside down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I could see that. The one qualm I have with the Wind is that it feels a lot like Navani's arc in Rhythm of War, where she has like this voice communicating with her
Mm,
that she now needs to find out like what it is
yeah.
and how it can benefit
Mm.
them and etc. You know what I mean? I know that they're different because the Tower Sprint is the Tower Sprint, but it feels like the same point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah,
So
that's
I
fair.
don't know, but I'm excited though. Like you said, if there is a connection to the spiritual realm, that would be great. To me, it works with the magic system that we have set up, where if something becomes part of this world, part of the world so much that humans or conscious beings begin to assign it personality, etc., then it manifests itself more as a more from the uh from Shadesmar as like a actual, being. I think
Mm.
that all fits well within the framework that we have. So
Yeah.
The wind
Yeah.
says to come to it and listen to the bondsmith. Where do you think it is? And do you think the bondsmith is just Dalinar? Or could it be Navani? Or maybe even Ishar?
I mean, those are the three
It's
bondsmiths we know, right?
yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm listing the options, yes. Don't take this away
Well,
from me, Ben.
Sorry.
there should be a fourth bondsmith, right? Or there
Um, there could be,
it might
because there could be like
weren't
a bondsmith with the Night Watcher, right? And right
yeah,
now,
yeah.
like Ishar is still a bondsmith, although does he? I don't know. It seems like the Radiance. It's hinting at the Radiance more and more, kind of being like separate in some distinct ways. So
Because he
yeah,
would
I feel
only
like
be a
that
bondsmith
there could be another
with
one.
his honor blade, right? Unless he has bonded a Spren.
Yeah, true.
Okay. So
It
there's
also is
yeah,
like the Herald of the Bondsmiths. That seems kind of different. I'm rereading Oathbringer right now, and it said something about this. The Stormfather said something to Dalinar about the honor blade that he took from Zeth having something else to it, and it seemed like it was hinting at something else going on. And we're gonna get into more of these honor blades for
Oh,
sure in this book.
was he not just telling Dalinar that it wasn't a shard blade, but an honor blade instead?
No, well, I feel like Dalinar already knew that.
Did he know at that
I don't
point?
know. Would he have known that? I don't know. I don't know. Good point.
Yeah.
Could have just done that.
Yeah, I think like the obvious interpretation is it's listen to Dalinar, but I'm I don't know if holding out hope. It's not really hope, but I'm like curious to see if it's going to be an unexpected bondsmith we haven't met yet. But
Well, I guess it's listening to Down or Navani. I feel like Navani is just as valid of an option.
right, but I mean, I think the obvious is Dalinar just because he's been
Hmm.
taking orders from Dalinar.
Yeah.
So who's the bondsmith? I'm
Why
hoping
not
like some
Ishar?
sort of
If he's going to Shinovar to meet up with Ishar, listen to the bondsmith in some like moment of lucidity. Ishar says something
maybe, yeah,
important.
that's just my I just missed that. I don't really my mind didn't categorize Ishar as a bondsmith because it's through an honor blade as much as I understand it.
Hmm.
But I think he would be considered one. I just have this thought of a listener bondsmith who has bonded the Night Watcher being really cool.
That's pretty cool.
Okay.
But or
Nice.
singer.
Also,
Yeah.
in chapter 2, Syl is kind of becoming more and more of a person, not like a human, but more of a person in some interesting ways. And we have to have a theory on who's writing Winds and Truth. And so my theory, Phantology guarantee,
Ooh.
is Syl. Syl is writing the book.
Yeah.
She's the author of the epigraphs. She goes on to become a big spren in some important ways. It grows up into a next level being. And so these things make more sense. It already kind of makes sense because the wind is speaking to her like in early days. And then, she's always kind of got these more interesting thoughts. I feel like it could work, although she has to like get to a new level of being in order for it to totally make sense.
Dang, can Spren hold one of the shards?
I well could any of the heralds currently? Could Kelsier? If any of them could, then a Spren could, because they're all the same stuff.
Kelsier did for like a hot second, right?
Yeah. As a Spren. I don't know if he could have for longer. I don't remember.
Why?
In
Hold on.
Arcana
Why
on
is he
that.
the same stuff? Just because exists primarily in the
He's a cognitive shadow, and that's all Spren are.
Spare just cognitive shadows.
Yeah.
But he's
Which
also
essentially oh go ahead.
well, I mean that's basically what Seth is now too, right? I mean,
Seth is
but
yeah, but he's
because
been
they're
like nailed back to his body.
but that's kind of what isn't that kind of what has happened with with
Nothing retcon.
Kelsey, I mean, because he has
Yeah, yeah,
The
he's in a
spike.
body again. Yeah, so I don't remember what all was retconned with Zeth, but yeah, yeah. I don't think him being in a
Hmm.
physical body makes much difference other than how he interacts in the physical realm. But he held a shard without the body in the cognitive realm in Arcanum in what is it? Secret History.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also still does not have to hold a shard in order to satisfy what's been written so far.
Yeah. I think having heard this theory for the first time 20 minutes ago, I'm
Yeah,
all on
20 minutes,
board.
theory of 20 minutes. That's right.
I'm all on that I've been aware of it. The theory has existed much longer and has been much more vetted, I'm sure, by Stephen. But
Yeah.
the first epigraph says, "I should have known I was being watched all my life. The signs were there. I first need the wind, or I first heard the wind as a child during days before I knew dreams." And to me, I think that fits Syl really well. Like, I'm pretty sure, having not searched it at all, that she has mentioned being guided by the wind to Kaladin before. And days before I knew dreams when she was a child, like that sounds like her coming to the other side as a Spren and, trying to regain her memories. Anyways.
It all fits. It's just as good as my previous Phantology. Well, my previous biggest Phantology guarantee Stormlight Archive theory that I can remember was that cultivation was Dalinar's wife going into
Yeah.
Oathbringer. I was sure on
I
that.
was I was never on board with that theory.
I liked it.
So
Sanderson really missed an opportunity there. Would have been great.
the next line, though, I don't know how this fits
No
in.
comment. Okay, yeah.
I mean, it's yeah. Where she's or they say, perhaps it is the new storm making people begin to reconsider what that the wind is not their enemy. Uh, I don't I don't know how this contextually applies. The new storm, I assume, is the
hmm
Everstorm, but I don't see how the Everstorm has made people consider that the wind is not their enemy so far. But maybe we have to think about what the wind actually represents here with this primordial force, and maybe it represents,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
yeah, I don't know what else. Because it's not like I don't think people like the storm, like the what are they called? Not Everstorms, but
Ice
high
storms?
storms. Like the people don't like the high storms anymore. Any any more so than before now that the Everstorm's here.
True, true.
But
Question: do we think that the epigraphs, the wind is being written contemporaneously, or do we think that it was written before and that somebody's they're just like discovering it? Um, I
so
could
we
imagine a world in which the wind is actually what was being what called, oh, who's that one from, oh, the character from, oh, that was it, the Way of Kings that wrote Way of Kings that like did that journey that down
Nahodon,
our, yeah,
not how do you say it?
yeah.
I this is my gut theory as of 10 seconds ago, as you made this
Nice.
question. Wave Kings and Words of Radiance, those were books written in the past before the main narrative. Oathbringer and Rhythm of War were written uh, contiguous with the events of the main story. So I am positing that this is being written in the future,
Nice.
which
But
would
then we
fit
need
with
one
Syl.
we need one more book in the future, so it's nice and
No, no, it's
symmetric.
even. Two, two, one. I mean, you already
Two
have
two
five.
one.
Like two, two, one
Two
works.
two
Two, two, one.
two two two
Jake, what
is
is your
better.
definition of even?
In
In every
this
sense of
sense,
that, that is
not
both
not
an odd number,
numerically, not numerically even,
just
even
balanced.
in pattern. Yeah, balance. Because then you could do the first like book six could start with a book in the future, and then do two
Ah,
in the present, and then two in the
yeah,
past.
yep. There
So,
we go.
so
Yes. A Ketek in the time frame of each
yeah,
in-world
yeah,
book.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
pretty meta stuff.
But yeah, but I think that would fit with the Syl stuff as well. If Syl is the author, it could be her post enlargement
Right.
um singularity.
Reflecting back. Yeah.
Yeah, reflecting back. Yeah.
I think this cleansing of Shinovar reference is interesting. It kind of gets it to what Zeth has said he wants to do, which is go there and cleanse Shinovar of the really kind of whatever evil he feels is there. It sounds like there's some kind of like corruption with the stone shamans and the honor blades and the way that he was made truthless and all of that really like stinks right now to us, but I don't know that we have many details.
Yeah, I can't decide if it's just going to be standard like kind of false religion exerting too much dogmatic control, just kind of standard, like nothing really interconnected with the rest of the main antagonists or protagonists, or if it's
Mm.
going to be something like the Ghost Bloods had infiltrated the Shinovar leaders and are using them as puppets, or Odium or something like that, or the diagram.
I hope it's
But
connected. Having another
yeah,
faction just kind of like propped up in this one book and we'll probably get a resolution to whatever is happening over there. It just kind of seems clunky. I bet it's going to be related.
I mean, I think my kind of theory is because Shinovar, that's where like the humans first landed, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that that's, I think that they knew that humans were the like reason for the desolation, and so they've put a lot of safeguards in place for not doing it again, and part of that is like like hold on to all the honor blade, not the honor blades. What are those called? The
Yeah, the honor blades.
are they honor blades? I just didn't know if
Yeah.
that was the one that we had seen. But kind of like hold on to all of those and not let them get out into the world writ large and just try and not cause another desolation. And they've kind of like held that history close to the chest.
I think that's definitely how it started. I think that's almost been confirmed that that's how it started. But I think that current day that has been like corrupted, bastardized, and the true
Yeah.
intent has been lost over time. Um, I think if we don't view it as a separate faction, it could work if it was self-contained. If it's just, here's some more world building and like backstory for Zeth while dropping more like nuggets of like exposition for the future. I'm okay with it being interconnected in the way of like being infiltrated by and manipulated by the Ghost Bloods or something. I
Mm.
just I think it could be done poorly if that's the case. If it's just like you'd want it to come across as like um whatever current factions we know of are so widespread and powerful that they've been using all these people as tools rather than it just being okay, you pull the mask off and it's this bad guy again.
Right.
Like you don't want to
Right.
go, it can't be too on the nose that way. It has to either like really fit into everyone's plans or should be kept separate, in my opinion.
Part of me doesn't like the I'm gonna say bloating of the series. That sounds bad, but part of me just doesn't love the increased level of involvement and all these different groups that are coming in. There's just so much to track, and I know that's kind of the Cosmere, and that's really like the point of the whole series. But to some degree, I just miss like the Way of Kings when it's this real kind of self-contained story. Stakes are much smaller than saving the world. It's more about the characters, and I know the characters are still a big part of the series, and everyone loves them. But I don't know. To some degree, I kind of wish it wasn't as big as it is, which sounds like so weird, given that's what the series is. I
Yeah,
don't know. Does that make any sense?
I could see that. I think there's still some really good character payoffs, but I've said this before. I think The Way of Kings is almost like a perfect like character development book. Like Kaladin's growth in that is just so amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And we've
I
just
yeah,
grown, like we've grown the stakes so much from a couple books. Way of Kings and Words of Radiance, I think we're both like not like they were smaller stakes, right? We're not trying to save the world.
yeah,
We're just involved over there in the Shattered Plains. And now within books 3 and 4, I don't know, everything has just exploded so much. And I know they're super long books and there's plenty of time to do this, but part of me is just sad that they drop all these names of people who are now Knights Radiant and you have no idea who they are. And we haven't like spent a
seeing all
lot of
that.
time with
Yeah.
these other orders and like don't fully understand everything that's it just like feels like there's so much that's like out of my control and I need like 20 books to understand everything. But instead we only have one that covers this time period when there's so much going on.
Yeah, I think that was my main complaint when it like at the beginning of Rhythm of War. I feel like that's when that change happened. Like suddenly you have like whole entire like groups of radiants that
Squads.
are
Yeah.
squads of radiants.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree. It's like the first like three books, each radiant like it was really earned. You're like, oh, Shallan's now radiant. Like that was
Yeah.
an epic,
Like we got
like
a Radiant, like heck yeah.
yeah, exactly. Or like yeah, so I feel like even honestly, even when like Dalinar became radiant, it was like, okay, like guess, he can be radiant too. Right now,
I
like
don't know. I
Adelin's
thought that was awesome.
no,
I
But
love
it
yeah.
was.
Dalinar.
There's always like an air of awesomeness to it, but like he didn't
Yeah.
like struggle with it in the same way that Shallan and Kaladin did.
I feel like
Um,
he did in his own right. Like I feel like I counted all like the visions from Wave Kings
well,
coming up
yeah, sure.
through
And even
linear as
like
part of
his,
that.
yeah, I mean, that's fair.
But
But it feels like he needed it less as well. Like he didn't need to be radiant in order to have his place in the world
yeah,
solidified. You
but
I
know,
mean,
as
he did it in order to unite them.
he
yeah,
needed it in order to be married for sure.
so you could
That
tell
is true.
him.
Yeah.
I care a little less about this than you guys. I think in terms of like storytelling, it makes sense to introduce people to these concepts and these more like character focused like growth and arcs towards it. And I think once you've seen a couple of them done, then it's like you can glaze over like newer ones,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay. Okay.
I think that makes sense. It's like, okay, we've had really good focus with Kaladin and Shallan and Dalinar, and yeah, and so I think it's fine to like start like
Mm.
other things are happening in the meantime.
Yeah.
I'm a little worried with the bloat when it comes to, and this could just be my lack of um like capacity to follow, but like they talk about Wit talks about Kelsier and the Ghost Bloods again here, when Shallan is like worried for her family and worried for herself that the Ghost Bloods are going to try to kill her because she knows so much, and mentioning how they killed Yasna. I'm not quite sure. I know the Ghost Bloods' motivation of what they want. Like they want to find a way basically to help Kelsier get off world, to not be stuck to uh uh
Schedule.
Scadrial.
Yeah.
But other than like, I don't understand how killing Yasna helped them complete that goal. I don't understand. I don't understand why a lot of what they've wanted, like how that fits in with that goal. And I kind of worry that they've just been set up as like, oh, this is one way Kelsey's organization
Mm.
could look evil just to show that he's ruthless. But I'm like looking for the um
Like we
like
need
the
more of a
full.
viewpoint into them to totally
I just
understand.
I just don't understand all the motivation between all the actions and how it ties to the singular motivation I know that the organization has.
Well, I
Mm.
don't know that that you stayed there, but like maybe it is to get Kelsier off world, but I think it's more to like figure out a way of transporting investiture. That's like their prime, and I think that once they do that, they can control the economy of the Cosmere. Because I feel like right now
Oh, you
investiture
think it's more
is,
of an economic play?
yeah, yeah, for sure. I think right now investiture is notoriously trapped on like connected to the world. I think people have realized that Stormlight is not in the same way, and
Mm.
therefore they need to figure out how to like ways in which Stormlight can be transported, like example
Yeah.
given gemstones.
I
So
I
And
Yasna, who was streets ahead, Else Caller, getting
uh-huh,
in to Shadesmar was a kind of
was a big
infringing
threat. I think that
on
she
their,
was
yeah.
the like they kind of isolated the people in the world that were people that maybe could have been figuring this stuff out, and the people that weren't willing to play ball, they were like, okay, they're too much of a threat.
Let me amend what I was saying. So I guess I think their number one goal outside, like holistically, is to protect Scadrial. I think like their organization's number one goal within Stormlight has been to get Kelsier off world. I've understood all of the transport of Investiture to be a step of the way to that, because the way I understand it, like cognitive shadows and sprint are basically made out of Investiture. I could be wrong on that. That's been my understanding of it. But taking the economic angle, I could see that maybe like helping their goal of protecting Scadrial. But I don't, that just doesn't seem very Kelsier to me to like go for this economic control, or to be okay with, okay, we need to murder this person who might like be an economic competitor with us
Well,
before we can.
I don't know if it is just purely economics, but I think it's just everything, right? It's power. It's transporting power and it's
Right, I
harnessing
get that,
power.
but well, right, I mean, economic power is just power in general too.
Isn't there some
But
quote in Dune about controlling the spice, Jake, that would
he
work
who
here?
controls the investiture uh controls the universe. Yes.
Yeah, there
Um,
you go.
but well, yeah, he who controls Shadesmark controls the investiture. He who controls the investiture controls the Cosmere.
There you
Um,
go.
I get the power angle, but again, like that comes across more as a conquering motivation that I don't see Kelsier's characterization as
I don't
having.
know. I mean, think about this is spoilers for outside of the pre-release chapters. So
I think we're doing
sorry.
full spoilers,
Okay.
Cosmere.
Yeah, I feel like
That's
we've
fair.
done a lot of stuff.
But
Yeah.
Wait for it. Wait for it. Here it
okay,
is.
so sorry about that.
Oh, you're good.
I think that the uh oh, what's the Six of the Dusk world? We
Mhm.
know that the Ghost Bloods are invading that world purely for like economic and somewhat like not very noble reasons, that's for sure. They just want to control
They're
the
exploiting it. Yeah,
they're
that's
exploiting
true.
it.
That's true. But that's also way far in the future. And so I guess I just didn't make that connection that maybe Kelsier would still be running the show at that point in the same way.
He may not be. Hard to say.
Yeah, and that was my assumption. So I didn't think I didn't think to compare the two, but
Mm.
he's also probably effectively immortal at this
Yeah,
point.
actually,
So
I don't remember if we've like seen him in those future things or not. Have we?
I don't think we have, but
Yeah.
I mean, he's lived a long time to even get to the point where we're at
yeah.
now. So
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's
Probably
true. I don't
he's
know.
sticking around.
Again, I'm like trying to think how does that line up with what Kelsier himself wants for
Well,
schedule
and
and wants
how does
for
it
the
tie
Ghost Bloods?
into how does it tie into what we're seeing in these chapters where the Ghost Bloods are really interested in getting Mishram out of the spiritual realm? Like they want control over the
Yeah.
Mishram gemstone. Like, what is the connection? I don't know.
Is it just power? Yeah. If it's just power for power's sake, I feel like that makes a weak villain. Like we need some actual
yeah.
motivation there,
Mm.
but
Isn't
still
isn't
mysterious right now.
I think part of it part of his motivation is to figure out how to stay sane for so long, right? Is and that's why he wants to talk to Kalek.
Well, he wanted to kill Kelek, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I thought he wanted to trap Kalek in a I don't know.
Yeah, it's been about a year since I read it, so I'm not exactly positive. Shallan talked about it as if she was sent there to kill him in this chapter, but can't remember the nuance of that. If
Yeah.
it was to trap him, which would effectively kill him, but still provide information and intel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
I
feel like
think my
we've like
No,
talked
it's
all
good.
about stuff
I mean,
that's
that's why
not
we're
in the chapters.
that's why
Yeah,
we're doing this
yeah.
because this
No,
is what
it's all connected.
yeah.
I think to bring it kind of smaller stakes, my favorite chapter is chapter 4 with the Wit Kaladin conversation. There were some hints at some bigger things as Kaladin learns the flute, and Wits tells him that he needs to be able to like play the rhythms of Roshar. And it was the same thing that was used in Wandersail back in book 1. And this is what guided humans to Roshar. So there's a lot of big stakes things that are hinted at. Oh, also that Wit says Kaladin won't be back to help Dalinar. So lots of hints at what's coming in the future.
Mhm.
But I really enjoyed just the intimate conversation kind of therapy session talking about like hope and how that fits in and where Kaladin's at and yeah, some of that stuff was like really poignant for me.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed that. I felt like that was one of the few conversations that Wit was actually treating Kaladin like an equal almost. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
you and I might never talk again, and so I'm just gonna like level with you. Like there's
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
That one
Um,
and the conversation with Kaladin and Dalinar in the chapter 6 both seem like kind of last conversations between those
yeah.
character type things.
I'm getting major like all the talks before the last battle
Mm-hmm.
in Wheel of Time. And speaking of Wheel of Time, I do feel like him handing Kaladin the flute was a way for Sanderson to shoehorn um Kaladin into a Rand character a little bit.
Okay.
I think not shoehorn, but maybe it felt like an illusion, like a little
yeah.
drop or tie back there. But
I
um
do you think that the Kaladin moments have overshadowed the Shallan moments in these chapters?
I mean, they have for the whole series for me.
yeah. I agree they have for the whole series. I think Shallan's, we got more internal exposition. Kaladin, we got some of that, but more plot exposition going, which is
There was some good stuff with Shalon and Wit as well, as she was talking about like what it is to be a hero, and
yeah,
she's kind of accepting these like bad parts of herself, but not like that doesn't mean that she is bad type of thing. I think
yeah,
that's some important growth for her. A couple of other interesting things with her is she's drawing these strange faces in her drawings, which we have
Yeah.
seen in the past. And I thought it was interesting that Colette tells her that she can touch fortune, which is like
yeah,
one of those kind of nebulous
Spiritual realm.
powers, yeah, spiritual realm powers that hasn't really been explained much, but it makes sense because she's always had this ability to like draw people to what they could be, what their potential is, even back to the first book when she's drawing, I think like Yalb and this really cool
yeah.
guys, right? And yeah, same. Yeah, I
So
think there's
that's
been
how
a
she
couple.
rescues. That's how she gets the turncoats on her side too, like her little band
Yeah.
of
Mm,
light
and Wars of
weavers.
Convincing him
Radiance.
they're
Yeah,
protectors rather than mercenaries.
yeah.
Yeah.
That
Even
callback.
herself, honestly, she like light weaves herself for
Mm,
the first time in front of them. Sorry.
well, just that
Um,
and the callback to the Wander Sale. I think there's been some nice callbacks like all the way through the series already in these few chapters.
yeah. Um, more into the Shallan thing, just realizing her touching into the spiritual realm, I feel like that makes total sense. That's something that I think of like, oh yeah, that's kind of what I assumed was happening without like putting it to words, but just like she's able to see these like potentialities more than just like how she views them, but more specific to them. I wouldn't have considered that fortune before, and now I'm like questioning like how does she access fortune at all, you know?
Well,
And then
didn't
that's
we
oh go ahead.
didn't we get like a partial answer there when Kalek was like, "Oh, this is possible because of an interaction between the two bonds, and that's why there used to be rules against this."
I think
Yeah,
that's
Like, I'm not sure we know
yeah,
the exact
hinted at.
mechanic behind
yeah,
how that works, but I think
right,
that's
right. And that's what I mean. Like what is the exact mechanic there? Because uh they're both a light weaver, Spren. So but maybe because I was thinking at first like, oh, maybe it's like a twin born thing, but because they're both light weaver Spren, that wouldn't work. But maybe there's like a compounding still. Uh and again, it makes sense that that compounding would give her the ability to reach into the spiritual realm because I feel like transformation is associated with the spiritual realm more than the
Cognitive.
cognitive. Wait, does she has light weaving? I always get this mixed up. No, she has light weaving and
Transportation or no,
transportation, not
transmutation.
so she can
Is that
transform,
yeah.
but she dips into the cognitive realm actually to do the transmutation because she goes into Shadesmar for that.
Mhm.
Um
Right.
oh anyways, but then that got me thinking, could could a Herald really be her mother as like could Kelsier procreate? Like does this make sense that it could happen? I don't want to shoot this theory away because I really like the theory, but maybe
Doesn't doesn't Kaladin ask Seal if Spren can have children? And is that in these chapters or I'm also rereading Oathbringer at the same time right now. It might be back then in these
it sounds like
chapters.
an
mating.
Oathbringer thing. But Spren having children is very different than Spren having children with humans, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I
But
just have never pictured the um what
the Heralds,
like the heralds as purely being like Spren adjacent. I thought that they were all like basically humans.
no, uh that's kind of why they're going insane.
Well,
Um
yeah, but I feel like any human that is alive for 10,000 years goes insane. I get
yep,
what you're saying,
maybe,
especially
but
because like you
they
stab them with a special knife and they get trapped and they die a final death, whatever. Like
Like, and
Uh,
that's why Kellic was saying they want to trap me in a gem the same way because
right.
he's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
Spren just the same.
Yeah. I know, I get it. I just haven't like pictured them as I feel like I've always just assumed they're more human than Spren, whereas
Hmm.
you I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay, last beats here. Let's talk about chapter 6, where Kaladin is offered to
Oh,
be the heir of Urithiru. Or Jake, did you have something else we need to do?
I was gonna say, like, the face was confirmed to be Mishram, right? I can never say her full name,
Yeah.
but
Well,
okay.
he said because Kellex said if you I, I would have just assumed you had seen some accurate depictions that had survived or something of her,
Yeah.
and we're basing it off of that. But if you've
So
never,
Mishram seems to be like reaching out or trying to connect with Shallan as well as Shallan trying to
or maybe
uh
Shallan's just part of her fortune gift, like she's manifest. She has the dream board that she's writing on right
vision
now,
board.
so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, the vision board.
Yeah, maybe. Anyways, so yeah, Kaladin inheriting Uruthuru. I think this makes total sense
Yeah, I mean,
for
we get the theory on Reddit that's been popular this week of the what was it, the tower, the crown, and the spear. That
Yeah,
was
yeah. Death
the
rattle.
death rattle.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah. I think it totally makes sense. I do think Kaladin is true to form. I don't I think he is the type of character who is going to survive. I think that this book is going to end in tragedy with Kaladin surviving. Um, and surviving meaning maybe not in his physical body, but still being around to do something like that.
I mean, he's got to be around enough to become king of the Radiance, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm saying I'm supporting that theory by doing this, by saying he'll be around.
I mean, that would require Dalinar and Navani to both die or be in a different realm. It would kind of be lame for Navani to go from bonding the sibling and like all the cool stuff that happened in book 4 to all of a sudden like she's gone.
Um, Still think Dalinar is going to lose the contest without dying or without disappearing, and is going to be Odium's champion. Like, I think that's going to happen. So that removes him from the leadership. And then I think Navani, I don't know, Navani could die. She could disappear. She could go with the new army of Odium to conquer the world or the Cosmere. I don't know.
She
Jake
could also
foresees a
break
dark
her
book.
bond with the tower.
She could break her bond. Maybe she breaks her bond so that way she can't be used in that way. And then the tower's like, I knew you'd do this, you know?
Or maybe she breaks her bond because like she is trying to create some weapon with Spren and like trapping them and kind of like in the same way that Kaladin was breaking his bond in Wave
Yeah.
Kings.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I
I could
foresee a dark path, a tragedy ahead that leaves Kaladin as king of the Radiance. But
yeah.
although, would it truly be a kingdom? I don't know. I feel like they've been hinting at Yasna like developing democracy here, or
Yeah.
at least an Alethi version of democracy. But
Yeah.
I can see
Yeah,
that. I
but
mean,
that was crazy.
classic Sanderson of advancing the world in like every realm in a very quick amount of
yeah,
time.
And
yeah.
we also know that Shallan is in line for the
Not for
Alethi King.
Uruthuru though.
No,
Yeah,
for yeah.
yeah, for the Alethi Kingdom, but it would be who's it? It's Yasna currently, and then Gavanor, and then would it go to
Probably.
Shallan though? Because
Yeah, because I don't think Adolin wants it.
well, that's something. Does Adolin not wanting it and her being in line through Aelin, does him removing himself remove her from the I don't know.
I don't think Dalinar certainly didn't think it would. Like he said that we wanted people that would inherit that we trust or whatever.
Right.
When did he say that though?
Well,
There's a
she
little
thought back.
flashback of,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like actually written words, but she thought back to being accepted into the Cohen family by them.
But that was at a time before Adolin had recused himself or whatever it's called, refused the throne. So, but yeah.
Hmm.
She's in line there.
So that's exciting.
Okay.
I think I mean, we've talked a lot about a lot of stuff that's not related to the chapters, but anything
Oh,
else
they
here?
are. I feel like they're all related. I think
I
this
mean,
is all
everything's
like.
related.
It's
Yeah.
all related now. That's the thing. That's the thing that part of me is just like a little bit sad about.
Yeah.
I don't know, like as awesome as it is, I also miss some of the more focused stories.
Do you think these chapters to end, I guess, set up a midpoint finale, as in like end of the first five sequence, as a tragedy, as hopeful, um, and and just regardless of what you choose there, is it according to has anything from these chapters made you rethink how the story's going to end, or do you still think your predictions from reading Rhythm of War are on track?
I think that it's going to be a tragedy. I think the reason why I think that is not from the chapters, but because of the Sunlit Man.
Which I haven't
Um,
read.
oh, you
I
haven't
need to
read
read
that?
that.
Oh,
Yeah.
geez. Okay.
Yeah. I heard it was like
You should read
minorly
that.
connected to this one. Is it
It's
majorly
just
connected?
it's super far in the future, so it's kind of hard to know exactly. I
Hmm.
mean, there's like a very direct connection.
Okay.
There's
Do you
I'll
one
know who
very
the main
direct.
character is?
no.
Okay. I don't want to
I
spoil
haven't
it
I
for you.
haven't yeah. I'll check it out. Ah man, so many books on the
We've spoiled
TBR
everything else
on
in the
the R.
Cosmere for people listening, but we will not spoil this one book for Jake.
I'll mute just now and you can say it and then
Well, no. It's just kind of confirming
It's fine.
your theory that it's going to be a tragedy.
okay.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, I still think tragedy and it didn't hasn't really changed much. The King of the Radiance thing does that might change my theory of Kaladin becoming another herald type figure, whether the Oath Pact is actually reformed or something similar to it replaces it. I don't
it's
know if that
it
means.
yeah, it's hard to imagine like Kaladin, Shallan, Dalinar, Navani, Yasna like not like circling around and doing some form of oath pact. Like I think if that doesn't happen, I'll be a little sad.
Yeah, I don't really know
Yeah,
how it
no doubt.
would work, but just because the Oath Pact was originally created to defend against the Parshendi ascension into Voidbringers and basically combat odium. It was to like set an agreement with odium to give humanity a chance to survive. And my understanding of how this will end in a tragedy is odium will get an army and then we'll have conquered Roshar and we'll go off to the rest of the Cosmere to conquer more.
No part of the deal allows for Odium to conquer Roshar. Either way, each party maintains the lands that they've gotten so far.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh. I think, and I don't even think
Is he
that Odium
still
gets it.
tied to the system regardless? I don't
He's still
remember.
tied to the system regardless, at least for like 1,000 years, which is why Wit crafted it the way he did. And I
Oh,
think
that's something
that
else I want.
I think it's just mainly Dalinar is the person that's up for grabs here.
Well, either way, like there doesn't really seem a need for the Oath Pact in general.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
that,
I agree with that part.
but so I don't know how that's going to happen. I did want to touch on this before we end. Wit mentioned something's off. I think this confirms that. So at the end of Rhythm of War, with Teravangian becoming Odium and messing with Wit's memory, I
Hmm.
interpreted that as Wit was outplayed. Teravangian is so smart, something so unexpected happened. Wit was outplayed at the end of Rhythm of War. And I remember seeing a lot of theories online saying, like, no, Wit knows what's happening. He's playing along with it. In my mind, this confirms that he does not know. Like, he has been outplayed by
I think he's been
Teravangian.
outplayed. Yeah,
Hmm.
it certainly
Just
Yeah,
seems
want to
like
see
same.
that.
your guys' take. Cool.
I don't think he's invincible. He can be outplayed.
Yeah, I
It
just remember getting a
mentions
lot of like hearing a
it
lot of
mentions the
people
change in Odium's vessel too in the
in the
epigraphs.
epigraphs.
Yeah, whatever they're called. Yeah.
The ep is
Yeah, because
something.
it's scary to me that none of the characters realize that Todium's now,
Yeah. Yeah, no mention
Yeah,
of that.
no
The
mention of the
wind told me
diagram.
before she vanished there was the change in Odium's vessel that restored her voice.
Oh,
I wonder if that has
whoa.
something to do with
Yeah.
certain pacts that had been altered or maybe previous Odium just knew to do something to suppress the wind, and current
Yeah.
Odium isn't aware of that.
Also, the
Yeah.
way this reads, the wind told me before she vanished that it was the change in Onium's vessel. So the wind is telling Syl that it was the change in Odium's vessel, and then she
Hmm.
vanished. So somewhere between Todium Ascension, wind talking to Syl, then the wind vanishes, which wind vanishing seems like a bad thing for Roshar. Right? Isn't that
Or
how you read
maybe
that?
that is, but maybe it's saying that the wind started talking to her only after the change, and then she vanishes again, but not maybe not the same way. But
I
yeah, I
mean,
don't know.
the vanishing again seems like a bad thing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Dang. Yeah,
Okay.
tragedy all around.
Well, that's our reading of the first 6 chapters plus the prologue. And we'll do these more regularly in the future, I guess.
Hopefully.
Yeah. If you, sorry, my voice has steadily been going throughout the recording. I think it's totally gone. If you like what we're doing, you can check out more of Phantology on our website or join our Discord. Links will be in the episode descriptions below. Thanks. See you next time.